Tales of Falling and Flying by Loory. The Ocean Next Door. One night, the woman has a dream that the ocean moves in next door. She can see it in there rolling around as she stares out the window across the hedge. Somehow, the ocean's all lit up from below, lights sparkling through the clear blue waves, and the white-capped peaks are moving back and forth. And then the woman wakes up. "Oh," the woman says quietly to herself as she lies there in the dark. After a while, she looks over at her husband. He's sleeping. Slowly, she sits up. She gets out of bed and pads into the kitchen and pours herself a glass of water. She peers out the window at the house next door. It's sold months ago, but no one's moved in yet. "Honey?" says a voice. The woman turns to see her husband standing in the doorway. He's wrapping his robe about himself. "Is everything okay?" he says. "Oh yes," says the woman. "It's just, I had a dream. I dreamt the ocean moved in next door." "The ocean?" he says. "I wonder what that means. Maybe you should go to the beach." The woman smiles, and her husband smiles too. "I'll make you breakfast," she says. He gives her a kiss and heads for the shower. She makes coffee and toast and fries an egg. "But really, her husband says, finishing his piece of toast, maybe you really should go to the beach. After all, that's what retirement's about." "I know," says the woman. She sips her coffee. "Maybe I will," she says. After a while, she gives a nod. "It might be fun," she adds. After her husband has headed off to work, she goes and digs out her bathing suit. She packs it in a bag with a towel and a book, grabs her sunglasses, and gets in the car. The beach isn't very far away at all, though the woman hasn't been there in years. She parks the car and walks down to the sand and finds a good spot to lie out. She puts on her sunscreen and sits there a while, just staring out at the waves. "Well," she finally says, "what are you waiting for?" She stands up and wades on out. She swims a little bit, back and forth. The water's cool and the air is warm. Overhead, a few clouds and seagulls move by. Then something brushes against her calf. "Ah!" the woman says. She moves her leg. Probably just some seaweed, she thinks. She peers into the water but can't see a thing. After a while, she turns and heads in. She dries herself off and lies back down on the towel. She squirms a little bit. She feels a chill. "What am I doing here anyway?" she says. She feels silly. She decides to go home. The woman drives home with a head full of heavy thoughts. What is she doing with her life? What's it all for? What's it all about? When she gets home, there's a moving truck parked outside. The door of the house next door is open, and movers are carrying boxes in. The woman watches, then opens the door and walks up the path toward her home. When she's almost to the door, she sees a man and a boy. On the neighboring path beside her. The boy's holding a bag, and the man's carrying a lamp. "Hello there," the man says. "Hello," says the woman. "Are you our new neighbors?" "I guess we are," the man says. "My name's Steve, and this here is Johnny." The woman goes over and shakes their hands. "Is it just the two of you?" she says, looking around. "Yes, I'm afraid so," the man says. "I'm sorry," says the woman. "I didn't mean anything." "I know. It's all right," the man says. The woman invites the two of them for dinner. "I know moving days are hard," she says. Thank you, the man says. We'd be delighted. So would we, the woman says. In her kitchen, the woman finds her apron and puts it on. She makes a salad and defrosts some steaks. When her husband gets home, she tells him about the plan. Sounds good to me, he says. They all sit down around the table to eat. The man tells the two of them about his wife. They've decided to separate after 15 years. I have Johnny on weekends, he says. Well, says the woman, weekends are the best part. Yes, I guess that's true, the man says. Excuse me, he says. His phone starts to ring. I'll take this outside, he says. The man goes outside and sits on the porch. They can hear the conversation through the screen. They can hear him quietly pleading with his wife. Then the sounds of crying floats in. The woman and her husband look at one another. The woman looks over at the man's son. He's staring at his plate. She sets down her napkin. Johnny, come with me, she says. She leads the boy down the stairs into the basement. She opens the door to the storage room. It's filled with shelves of their children's old toys. Do you see anything you like? She says. The boy's eyes widen as he looks around the room. Then he steps forward and starts to dig. What's this? He says after a while. It's a miniature planetarium, the woman says. See, she says, you put a bulb in here, and the light shines out through these holes. And it projects the stars all around the room. It's best at nighttime, of course. Are you sure? Says the boy's father, when they go back upstairs. The boy's holding the box in his hands. Oh yes, says the woman, please, of course. These things should be used, she adds. When the good nights have been said and the neighbors have gone home, the woman and her husband do the dishes. Her husband washes and the woman dries. They seem like nice people, he says. Yes, says the woman, yes, they do. You know who else is nice? He says. No, says the woman, but I have an idea. I hope you're thinking about me, he laughs. Late that night, the woman has another dream about the house next door. This time it's dark, empty and run down, and there are old leaves blowing around inside. But this time, when the woman wakes and pads out to the kitchen and stands there pouring water into her glass, she looks out the window and sees those lights in that room, like a tiny little universe looking out. It's not a bad life, the woman says to herself. She reaches out and turns off the tap. Then she drinks her water and sets the glass down, and turns from the kitchen and swims out.